When it comes to the words disclosure and UFOs, they have been thrown around these past years like confetti at a wedding. But what is the disclosure movement, and what exactly is the outcome they await? Let's reveal all here on Things Visible and Invisible. Steve, the last time we spoke, you gave us a very interesting exposition on not only your own journey in terms of disclosure and particularly your way in which you coined that expression and what you hope to achieve through it, but we also talked about the embargo, as you see it, from governments around this disclosure movement. If so, what happened in 2017 that suddenly the landscape changed?
Essentially, as near as I can tell, because they haven't published, I think, any real analysis on this, but an organization called the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, ignore that. It was a public benefit corporation that was going to investigate the issue and also address it in narrative fiction and fiction and whatever. It had a mission statement that set it up to make quite a bit of money, which is fine. And there were 10 people associated with this, key people. We'll call them advisors and board members. And all 10 of them were former members of the military intelligence complex, the DIA, the CIA, the Army, several major government labs. In other words, insiders, all of whom had the highest levels of clearance. And there they were in retirement, coming out with this organization dedicated to getting this issue resolved, as it were. Nothing like that had ever happened. And as near as I can tell, the reason that happened is that enough people within our military intelligence complex, the armed services, the Department of Defense, and other facilities, including government contractors, because one of the people who came forward was a former associate director of Lockheed Skunk Works, that enough people had come to the decision that the truth embargo really needed to end. Not everybody was going to come forward, I assure you, but these 10 probably had various meetings behind the scenes, off to the side, over lunch, over dinner, and sort of worked with each other and decided we'll come forward. And they came forward in a company that was well structured, had some funding, because every one of them knew that their post-retirement financial prospects in terms of, contracts for this project or that project that former retired people from these entities do probably weren't going to happen. And so this was a chance to, maintain their financial security. No problem there. So they came forward, and the question is, what were they going to do? I was in the UK when I learned about the launch of the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences. October 11th. And I immediately went to the site. I saw those 10 people. I read their bios, and I pretty much instantly knew what had just happened. Now, I'll add this. I'm pretty sure, and though it's possible that I'll be corrected one day, it hasn't happened yet, I've been saying this for 7 years, that this organization was formed to come out after the election of Senator Clinton. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Meaning October, election in November, she wins the election, and sometime between probably her election and the inauguration, they were going to drop into the picture. And there's complex reasons for this, which I spend 2 hours talking about, so it's going to be difficult to go there. But let's just say I believe that was the original plan. But she did not win, and it took about 8 months for them to come to the decision to come forward under the president that did win in October of 2017. Now, that in itself was interesting, and for an insider like me, very interesting. But so what? Just another organization. It's going to do some things. What's the big deal? But, of course, they had a mission. At least 3 of them particularly had a mission. They knew what they were going to do. The others were bringing up support, right? And what they did was they delivered to the New York Times an extraordinary story, extraordinary news about a case involving a carrier group uh, outside of San Diego, in which huge flap occurred. The UAPs were encountered, and that story was released. Also, they released a story about how one of our senators, Senator Reid, sponsored $22,000 research program on this subject or related subjects and so forth. All of which was pretty amazing, though not that amazing to people who have been involved in this issue for 60 years. But it was amazing enough that the New York Times vetted it and then published it. These are two of the most important stories ever published in any newspaper ever. They were championed by Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Kean. They should have gotten the Pulitzer Prize for it, hands down. If it wasn't about this subject, they would have. And so those New York Times articles, which were accompanied by 3 clips of gun camera footage of intercepts by our military planes, which was confirmed by the Pentagon that the clips were gun camera clips. Those were our military planes. And those were then put up on the website of the New York Times to be seen since probably several billion times. This was a sea change. This was just a shift of significant implications. And from that point forward, been on a study path that, again, books will be written about, thousands, docs will be made, movies will be made, a study path leading to confirmation of this presence.
But it's
disclosure, capital D. It has to come from a head of state, and the revealing of everything that the U.S. government knows about this over a period of time in an orderly process involving legislation and so forth. Study. There has been extraordinary disruption in our world since then, not just in one country, in our world since then. An unbelievable pandemic that cost the world economies trillions and trillions of dollars and killed millions of people. We've had major breakdowns in terms of what I would call the certain détente. We've had direct threats to the mutual assured destruction mantra that under which we've lived. We're closer to nuclear war than ever. 99 seconds, according to the 59 seconds, according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. It has been a roller coaster ride. That would be a huge distraction from the disclosure movement, from the activist movement to end this policy.
But Steve, there's still the question as to why, because on the last occasion you talked about how much government cover-up there was and how many governments were trying to keep the issue away from the public. I'm still unclear as to why in 2017 suddenly there was this, as you describe it, a sea change. Something occurred which suddenly, as you say, the New York Times were running serious articles about this. A few years later, Congress reinitiated its hearings around the UAP phenomena. Why was this happening now? Now, can I pose a question at the back of my mind, which is this, Steve? Is this all some sort of elaborate reverse deception, which is going to lead the disclosure movement to a point up the hill, as the Duke of York used to do, and then march them all down the hill again without any real disclosure?
No, absolutely not. Because we've been lied to, or this has been misrepresented for 7 decades, it spawned without the truth, without having a proper truth that they could be known and worked with by our intellectuals, academics, and what have you. It has spawned a million speculations. That's one of the problems. And that's one of the ways that lying like that that's one reason the governments do. They confuse you, they lie to you, and they leave you to speculate to death. As long as you don't bother the government, speculate all you want, come up with every conspiracy you could think of. As long as you don't know the actual truth, you don't threaten their authority or their control. No, that's not what's going to happen. The reason it finally broke, the reason these people came forward, was the result, and this is 2017, the result of 70 years of unbelievable effort on the part of thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands, of just citizens. I call them citizen researchers, journalists, activists, filmmakers, and even contactees. 70 years of evidence piling up in files and books. Millions of sightings, hundreds of thousands, possibly even a million reported sightings, hundreds of thousands of contactee cases being written up and sent to researchers privately just to tell the story, as well as many hundreds of them investigated and put in books. 600 science fiction movies about extraterrestrials, documents that have been secured and established. 70 years of citizen research. The reason it wasn't more than that is because they had to fund it out of their own back pocket. There was no funding. The stigmatization of the issue kept institutions and philanthropists and people with huge money who give billions of dollars to all kinds of causes to not touch this, lest they be thrown into the intellectual ghetto of ufology that the government had built with walls of ridicule. 70 years of that went on, enough to prove the presence of these advanced non-humans 100 times over. Now, science doesn't work that way. If science worked this way, we would still be in ox carts. But science is not, well, science usually does not get tinkered with or undermined by government. Scientists do their thing and move forward, and they prove, and then they add on to that. But governments have interfered with science from time to time. Nothing good came from it, I assure you. Yeah. But this was not science. This was a simple fact. Are there ETs here or not? That's like asking, are there Japanese tourists in Hawaii or not? It's not exactly nuclear physics or quantum field theory. The government denied it all because they didn't think it was in the national interest to do that. But just, I don't care what your classification level is. You could be working underground, right? Have a high classification. You can still read books. You can still watch documentaries. You can't live in a modern world and not be aware that a whole lot of information and research is turning up here and there regarding this phenomenon. Okay, it's everywhere. You can't avoid it. Now, less so in the 40s, 50s, 60s, but as you move forward, it gets around. Probably 100,000 articles have been written since 47, minimal, but again, the world has changed. When the internet came in 97, and then eventually, and you had the era of flame wars on emails and AOL and bulletin boards, and then social media emerges 2003, 2006, and you have this massive explosion of the ability of people to communicate worldwide on this subject. Huge numbers of websites devoted to the subject. At one time, it was one of the second most watched or search term in the early internet.
Wow.
Massive communication chain sealed the fate of this policy. What you could do in 1950 regarding just keeping this from the public, as opposed to now, it's not even close.
Absolutely. So, Steve, if I can,
of the process literally created a situation where people inside understood it had to end. Right?
Yeah.
Too many people already know it's undermining trust in government. It's corrupting inside. It's creating internal problems. It is part of a secrecy reform. It needs to be reformed along with a lot of other things. And they decided to take action in 2017. It's not the only thing that was going on, but those 10 people coming forward. And what happened since has sealed the fate of this policy to the point where, as I've said, a head of state, which is what disclosure has to be, it has to be confirmation from a head of state, not an astronaut or an undersecretary to the undersecretary or a movie star. It has to be the head of state to open all the doors and for us to move forward as a civilization, knowing we're not alone, is at hand. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in a week or 2 weeks or a month. It's that close.
Well, we're coming to the end of this interview. Unbelievably, this is a fascinating topic, and as you say, it's perennial in terms of its popularity. But my final question is this, Steve, and maybe one you don't wish to give too specific an answer to, but where do you think in terms of time that we're up to? Do you think we're looking at something this decade, the next decade, in the next 50 years? When do you think this moment of disclosure, which you have worked for 30 years and longed for, when do you think that's actually going to take place?
This summer. 50 years? No, what the point of, let me restate this thing. I'm aware of all of the developments pretty much from the outside looking in. I'm not an insider. I don't work for the DIA. The point is that so much has happened in the last 7 years, and a huge amount has happened in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years actually. We're right there. I'm saying the president of the United States could walk out tomorrow in the White House and announce we're not alone and we're dealing with technologically advanced non-humans with technology. Tomorrow, the platform has been built. The stage is set. It's just a matter of the president choosing to do it. But there are other things going on you may have noticed. And so it may be delayed. But I know enough about what's going on inside the Congress and elsewhere to know we're right here. If you are a member of the United Kingdom, you need to be prepared for the Prime Minister to come forward and tell you that the UK government has known about this ET presence for 70 some years, chose not to tell you because it decided to defer to the United States as its decision, given the United States' role in defending the West from nuclear armed opponents, right? Be prepared for that, because that's what's going to happen. Unless your prime minister decides to go first, which he could do. The prime minister of the UK, I'm sure the UK has got more than enough evidence in its files to confirm the ET presence many times over. And if the prime minister wanted to step out and be the first head of state to disclose and obtain one of the greatest political legacies of all time, he could do it. He could do it tomorrow. He'd have to talk to his defense people and give them a certain dressing down, like, I want this stuff and I want it now, or I'm going to fire all of you, whatever. That's where we are. I can't emphasize that enough. Yeah. There are about 3 generations operating right now in the world with a substantial number of people. 3 generations out of many hundreds, not thousands, since the human race sort of emerged 300,000 years ago. We are the 3 that are going to be here when this announcement takes place. Most profound event in human history, whereupon we are going to become part of a multi-special world that we may be directly engaging with in the open. We're talking Star Trek for real, but without all the lasers and proton torpedoes. That's where things are.
Wow. Steve, I feel as if we've just started a conversation which is going to go on and on and on. It's been absolutely fascinating having you on the show. Tell people where they can keep abreast of this fast changing scenario that you are in the vanguard of.
ParadigmResearchGroup.org. That's my nonprofit. NewParadigmInstitute.org. That's also a nonprofit, bigger than mine. The UAP Disclosure Fund, a 501c4 political entity formed recently. The Soul Foundation, a science think tank based out of Stanford, also a nonprofit. And there's other organizations forming literally as we speak, because a whole lot of people with inside information or just very aware who have high rank and station, there is no stigma anymore. There is no reason not to come forward. And they are, and they're coming forward, getting ready for what is coming. You can get in touch, and if you just Google UFO organizations or UAP organizations, you can find them. It is massively present on the internet. Not just the issue, but the disclosure process and its conclusion is also massively represented.
For now, Steve, thank you so much for coming on Things Visible and Invisible.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Things Visible and Invisible. We're dedicated to uncovering phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, from ancient enigmas and paranormal encounters to scientific anomalies and forgotten histories. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious and unexplained, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on future explorations. Have a personal experience or story that aligns with our investigations? We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at tvi.show and reach out through our contact form. While we can't feature every submission, we review them all, and your story might be featured in an upcoming episode. To support our continued investigations, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member Your contributions make these explorations possible and give you access to exclusive content, early releases, and monthly behind-the-scenes discussions with our team. Don't forget to check out our merch store. We've got everything from TVI-branded t-shirts and hoodies to stickers and coffee mugs, perfect for showing your support while keeping the mysteries close. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the things visible and invisible.